Good afternoon. I'm Chris Scher, Member Communications Director of the Society of Broadcast Engineers and the co-host of this month's episode of the SBE WEBxtra, the SBE chapter of the web. This is a monthly SBE meeting, usually held on the third Monday of the month. The SBE is the Association for Broadcast and Multimedia Technology Professionals, with nearly 5,000 members, mostly in the U.S., but also around the world. And the host of today's SBE WEBxtra is SBE Treasurer and Social Networking Committee Chair Kevin Trueblood. Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Hey, Chris, I'm really glad we coordinated our colors today. I think this has worked out really, really well because especially as we're getting into the holiday season, it's important to be as festive as possible.
Absolutely. I left my Dealey Bobber and jingle ears and whatnot downstairs, but if I really need to get them, I'll run off and grab them. But I think we'll be
Well,
okay.
all right. Well, thank you so much. And today we're going to be talking to a couple of people that have a lot of experience to share when it comes to ATSC 3, which these days is known as Next Gen TV. I will admit, I've been a radio guy my entire career. And in 2015, I started at a television station as the director of engineering. And when I took over, ATSC3 was coming. ATSC3 was coming. That was everything I had heard. And all of a sudden, ATSC3 is now here. It's on the air in a lot of different markets. Matter of fact, upwards of 60 to 70 markets. And we're going to see how it's going. We're going to talk to Fred Engel. He is with not only the ATSC board, but also with PBS North Carolina about his experience, as well as Jeff Juniet from Cox Media in Orlando. All of them have ATSC3 stations that are on the air. So we're looking for the good, bad, and the ugly as we get into it. So we've got a lot to talk about as we get to this WEBxtra. But first, Chris, you got some business to take care of.
I do. I have your SBE member update for December 19th, 2022. The next webinars by SBE on the calendar will be presented live tomorrow, December 20th. It's called Cybersecurity 2023, and it's led by Wayne Pacino. It's a timely topic as cybersecurity continues to be an ongoing concern. We'll even cover some cybersecurity issues on today's SBE WEBxtra, I'm guessing. It's a free webinar. You just need to register. Also, you can always access the entire library of webinars by SBE presentations on demand. With 2023 just around the corner, watch for announcements of new webinars being added to the calendar. For more on these and others, go to sbe.org/webinars. Beginning January 1, SBE Member Plus, the membership enhancement that allows unlimited access to all the webinars by SBE, will add another benefit. It gives you access to all the SBE University courses currently available. SBE University courses are multi-part programs on a variety of topics. You can take the classes as your time permits. If you hold SBE Member Plus, there's nothing for you to do. It'll automatically be activated on January 1st. For more information on SBE University, go to sbe.org/education/SBE-University. Sorry, I didn't have time to make that a shorter URL. The 2023 NAB show seems like it's a long time off, but it will be here before you know it. The SBE is making its NAB show plans, and this includes a double SBE and its workshop event to be held April 14th and 15th at the Westgate Resort. The NAB show exhibit floor opens on April 16th, so plan to arrive early. There will be two separate educational tracks, one on ATSC 3.0, a timely topic, and the other on RF. You'll need to register to attend the SBE and its workshop at the 2023 NAB show. The registration page will be launched next month in January. The SBE will also offer a special exam opportunity to take the SBE ATSC3 Certification Specialist exam in Las Vegas after the NS workshop. Look for more details on the SBE website under News and Headlines as they are announced. The next SBE certification exam window at local chapters is in February. The application deadline for that is January 6th. If you don't want to wait, or if local chapter exams are not convenient for you or just not possible, private proctoring is available. More information on SBE certification is online at sbe.org/certification. And there are two surveys still posted on the SBE website. We appreciate your input. One survey seeks information about disability access for SBE members. The other takes the opening steps as the SBE begins its next strategic planning efforts. Both are available now. The quickest link to reach each one is on the SBE homepage in the little pop-up box at sbe.org. There are also links in the October and December issues of The Signal. And that is your SBE member update for December 19th, 2022.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. And I'm excited to dive into today's topic because, as somebody again is new to television engineering, I'm excited to hear about what is possible with next generation television that is on the air now and is available to a lot of viewers in 60 upwards of 60 to 70 markets that are on the air right now with the technology, and many more are coming in the very near future. So my first guest that I want to bring on is Fred Engel, who is he's the chief technology officer at PBS North Carolina. He's also on the ATSC board. So Fred, I know you've had an awful lot to do with this technology, and I'm excited to get to talk to you today. I wanted to kind of start. I know that ATSC3 has been something that has been talked about for quite a while. I mean, when we get to this kind of technology, it's not just something that you guys met about a couple of years ago and went, okay, this is what we're doing. This has been, I'm guessing, upwards of a couple of decades in the making, right?
Well, I think, if you really look back at the history, when the ATSC 1 standard was developed back, I think they started talking about it in the 1980s about creating a digital television standard. And in the 90s, the Grand Alliance was formed, and out of that came what we call now ATSC 1. And our good friends here in town, WRAL, were the first folks on the air with an ATSC 1.0 digital broadcast signal. But the technology, as good as it was kind of frozen in time a bit. It relied on the MPEG-2 encoding system. We used a single carrier transmission method, the 8VSB, and although it worked, it looked great. It had a lot of I don't want to say compromises, challenges initially, especially with the receivers and with receiver equalization, any kind of multipath, windy days, leaves affecting the signal, whatever, could cause all sorts of disruptions. And it took a while before the set manufacturers, could catch up with that and make that a better, make that receiver more useful for the viewer. And it didn't. It wasn't much long after the 2009 analog. Where we shut down analog television broadcasting, that they started talking about ATSC3 or the next generation of this, and ATSC began meeting, and in I believe it was 2013, they proposed the idea of creating a new standard, all IP based. That was when the standard was announced, and then in 2017, the FCC adopted the standard as a voluntary standard for new digital television transmission, and it brought in all these great new features that the much more efficient video encoding to allow us to do perhaps up to 4K video and maybe additional channels, uh, uh, very much enhanced sound, better reception because of the OFDM waveform that it's used, and then with the capability of it being with a smart TV, an internet connected TV, you could bring in applications driven by the broadcast, but to pull in additional information via the broadband connection through the broadcast application. So, um, there's a lot of capability with ATSC3 that we're just really kind of digging into now. So it's going to be it's important. Better pictures, better sound, interactivity, better reception. That's the key for ATSC3. But then there's going to be these other features that are going to benefit the consumer by other applications.
So I'm going to guess there is an improvement because if I've had a nickel for every time I've heard I can hear or I can view everybody else's station except yours, that's going to improve it because with the new standard, the modulation scheme changed on it, which means that it moved away from, and this is what you're talking about, better reception, that it's not this all or nothing scenario. It's kind of like the old days where if you got a weak reception, you'd get, some ghosting, you'd get some static. And in this case, it's not an all or nothing decision. It is, you'll see a blurry picture, kind of like what a YouTube video looks like on a slow internet speed, right?
I don't know if I could say that, Kevin. I know one thing that the ATSC3 does allow you to do is create um, different um, levels of robustness in streams. You can have multiple, we call them PLPs, physical layer pipes, multiple PLPs within the TV broadcast. And so you could have your primary program in the robust stream, and you could also have it in a less robust stream, but maybe it has a higher resolution. And so your TV would then be, you as a viewer could select which one would be most appropriate for you at the time. If maybe you're at a fringe area, you probably will want to pick up the more robust feed versus the other feed. So it's still, you're still going to have the similar issues that we had with digital, the first generation digital with the digital cliff. If you get too far away, it's just not going to work anymore. It's going to degrade quickly and fall apart. But the OFDM waveform is so much more resilient to issues regarding multipath that has plagued ATSC1 for a long time, that the viewer will have a much better experience.
So that those reception characteristics, am I hearing it right, that could ultimately be made at a station level if they want to include that kind of redundancy? Was that what you're saying?
Right. So we're looking. So our partners in town here, WRAL, they're broadcasting on the we'll call it the enhanced channel or whatever, the higher bandwidth channel, less robust channel. They're broadcasting their HD signal on the robust PLP. They're maybe a slightly less visual quality of it, but it's going to be more receptive, easily more receptive, received at a far distance or in a moving vehicle.
So sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, I think, one of the big takeaways too is this really expounds on the idea that, and I think that's why a lot of these commercial broadcasters have a lot of interest in this, is because, well, ATSC1 has always been data casting. You have 19 meg and change, and whatever you decide to do with that 19 meg is up to you. ATSC3 takes it kind of a step further. You have a lot more data that you can be transmitting on that same 6 megahertz carrier.
Sure. And if the producer here could pull up slide 6 from me, I don't know if they can do that and run that animation. We'll see if they can do that. We created this little video, and I hope you can hear me as I talk. This is ATSC1, a 19 megabit signal. This is what we do. We have 4 program services in there, 3 SDs, 1 HD. But we go to ATSC3, the pipe does get a little bit bigger, and because of the enhanced encoding with ATSC3, we're using less of the pipe for the video services, which means we can use more data services. For us in public PBS North Carolina, we're looking to create a couple different PLPs. One is with our video services, and the other one we're looking for really robust service, probably for the data services, especially for the things that we're doing with the in the public safety space. Public safety communications to first responders. That's got to get there. So we're going to use a big portion of this broadcast for that capability. Not going to affect the quality of the video signal on our 4 channels plus our educational services as well. So it's just a kind of give you a visual of what this looks like. The pipes that are involved with the various streams that we're pushing out. You can go back if you want.
So we're pretty well into this rollout now. Is there any kind of changes that you're seeing forthcoming that may alter stations' rollouts anytime soon, or I guess anything that stations should be aware of as they're considering adopting this?
Well, I think that Jeff probably will have a little to say on this. We're concentrated here in North Carolina, and we have. If you could real quick pull up slide 8, it's the map from North Carolina, and I'll give you a sense of what we're doing here. There you go. So the purple dots, purple circles represent the 12 full power transmission sites we have throughout the state of North Carolina. And you can see the corresponding coverage areas for all those. And you notice over the right on the eastern part of North Carolina, centered on channel 25 in the Greenville, North Carolina area is our WUNK transmission facility. When the network was constructed long before I got here, it was constructed, there was lots of overlap. And so for channel 25, matter of fact, just about 100% overlap. And so we made a decision almost 2 years ago now to flip uh, uh, channel 25 from ATSC 1 to ATSC 3. And so that area is now covered by ATSC 3. The smaller blue circle is the approximate coverage area of the Class A license station that we're working with WRAL Capital Broadcasting. Give you a sense of what that area looks like. This is how we can do it in North Carolina, and then to transition other stations across the state is, there's going to be a challenge, and maybe we'll talk about that later on in this discussion. I think in Jeff's case, he's going to have stations all over the country where he's going to be working with other broadcasters, not with Cox, but with other broadcasters with these different sharing agreements that allow you to protect the ATSC1 viewership areas, so you don't disenfranchise those viewers, but then also be able to bring in the ATSC3 services. So this is what we've done in Eastern North Carolina. We have ideas on other parts of the states that we want to transition to ATSC3. It's just a little more challenging.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Fred. We're going to come back to you here in just a couple of minutes, but I want to get to Jeff because I have some good questions for Jeff Juniet. He is he's the director of engineering for Cox Media in Orlando, and he is running an ATSC3 station down there too. And Jeff, I want to kind of start from the beginning with you before you even started rolling out your technology. The thing that always fascinates me is how the FCC has basically told all the stations, okay, well, we're not going to give you an extra channel for ATSC3. So, and you're going to have to run ATSC1 for the foreseeable future. So, how did that process start from the beginning where now you're going to have to come up with a new channel that that's not an RF channel and work amongst the market to cooperate with everybody else? How did that go for you before you even actually installed any equipment?
Well, surprisingly well. I mean, fortunately, Orlando, a lot of the folks that have been here, we've been around and worked together for years, so it went fairly well from a cooperation standpoint. The planning standpoint, unfortunately, I wasn't involved in the detailed, but yeah, there were a lot of meetings and discussions like after SBE meetings and random phone calls where we were jotting things down on a napkin and going, well, we could do it this way, we could do it that way, and ultimately, what we've come up with is there's actually two 3.0 stations in Orlando, and one of them is the Fox station. They have a duopoly, and they've converted one of their stations. Um, and then Hearst also has one, and they were actually, or are actually, I believe, still the only VHF 3.0 station. So they took one of their channels and did the same thing. So we have a good number of stations there, pretty much uh, all the major players, all the networks, and even some secondary. Our independent station here is on there, as well as Fox's independent station. So we were able to make some room doing it that way, and it
So
works.
you're
Is
so
working very well.
just so I understand, you're running still your ATSC1 signal on your licenses, but you are running the ATSC3 basically as a cooperative amongst all of the people that are running ATSC3 on one of those two signals in the market.
Correct. Yep. Yep.
So nothing
And
stayed. So everything's the same for you on your transmitters. It's just now you're sending off a video feed to somewhere else.
yes, it broadly speaking, yeah. And I've taken a couple of the sub channels for the Fox stations, and I've got them in my streams that are going out over the air. So a little juggling of the PSIP, but nothing terribly wild going on there. But so they still show up for their channel numbers. Um, but yeah, that's from a distribution standpoint. That's how we accomplished everything, and it worked. like I said, it worked very well, and we're fortunate that we all work very well together, and you know, so
Yeah, you
that
basically
part
have
went
all of
was the
the
easy part.
channels being pointed to all the different RF channels that are still in ATSC 1. So you're wandering around the market. Your TV is, but the consumer wouldn't actually notice that.
Yeah, that hasn't been much of a problem there. The 1.0 and even the 3.0, uh, and folks did pick up on the 3.0 signal pretty quick after that went live. So
Yeah, I want to
that was
ask you about
pretty
that in
impressive.
just a second. So tell me about how you actually came across a lot of the equipment. I'm assuming you went through the repack, and was your station impacted when you did? Was that the opportunity that you put in like a new transmitter that had an exciter capable of doing the ATSC signal?
Yes and no. We were impacted. Uh, we've got a couple of transmitters that we were able to get in that have the newer capable exciters. Our main transmitter didn't qualify to be replaced. It was too new. So I'm still kind of on the old technology there, but that's easily convertible. Because we did have that conversation while we were going through repack, because we knew this was coming down the road. So um, that's written into some plans for the future, and so we know what we're going to do with that, and how to make that conversion ourselves, and kind of run things ourselves. And that's sort of one of the nice things about what we've got is we were able to dip our toe into 3.0, and but we still have the luxury now of going, okay, we kind of see what's working and what's not working. And like you said, equipment. When we started the project, we uh, we talked to a couple of vendors, and and they came back and said, "Well, we have this and this and this." So we started looking into it, and well, this little box does part of it, but it doesn't play the audio. Or this one, if you do, you know, X with the picture, you won't be able to see it. Um, so there was still a lot of development going on, a lot of patches coming out as we were building things out. So it got a little hairy there, but we most everything was working when we did the cutover.
So when you talk about that, are you actually running any of the encoding equipment, or are you just sending a video feed over to the Hearst station across town, and they're doing all the packaging for you?
They're doing everything. We're actually working with the Fox station, but yeah, they're doing all the encoding. We're just taking our stream, sending it out as an MP4, and sending it up to across town, and they're doing all the encoding and the upconverting right there. So,
And are
and
you
they're just pulling our dot ones for right now.
okay? So are you sending them any I guess additional like enhanced picture? I'm guessing it's the same picture and the 1080 or 720 standard that you're sending.
For now, it is. And yeah, so right now they're just taking our HD feed and doing an upconvert. We have built into the agreement, and we've also had a couple of discussions on what to do with special events. That it is built in that, for example, whoever has the Super Bowl can take a bigger piece of the pipe and a few more bits and send it out 4K or whatever enhancement they want to do. Obviously, they're responsible for getting all of that buttoned up and taken care of. And we've even worked on trying to do a couple of those specials ourselves here. We were trying to work on a couple of rocket launches. Unfortunately, weather and rockets and timing don't always work out the way you would like them to. So we weren't able to do what we had hoped with doing a live 4K rocket launch on there. But we're still working on doing stuff like that. So
So, anything additional you guys are taking advantage of that signal, aside from the dreams of a nice 4K image of a rocket launch, is there anything that you're doing right now that takes advantage of this technology and having additional layers? Because I know there's all kinds of discussions. If you go to NAB, if you go to any trade show or webinar, they're going to tell you all the things that are possible that you can do enhanced weather alerts and you can do additional local inserts and things like that, which of course everybody sees dollar signs that, wait a minute, I can put a local ad for this community and that kind of stuff that's more geolocated. Is there anything that you all are taking advantage of now or are looking to do in the future?
You mentioned the two phrases that for commercial TV station are you know applicable here. The seeing the dollar signs and looking to do in the future. Right now, we do have ambitions to do a lot of the enhancements, apps, and additional weathercasting, and all of that, which a lot of our partner stations in town are looking to do, and some have rolled out some very basic things. Uh, eh, but we're also, since it's the business side of it that's driving everything, and the last couple of years has been a little weird on the business side, so it's more of a let's kind of see how this business model plays out. So our company in particular is taking convert more conservative look, and I know we're not alone in that. So we haven't jumped into anything yet, but we are, like everyone else, we're working on how do we roll this out the best possible way. Can we monetize it, um, or certainly how do we drive the viewership and ultimately monetize what's there?
So there's stuff coming, but nothing on the air just yet.
Not yet. No, we're still, you know we're still tightening the screws and checking all the connections.
Sure. How long have you guys been on the air with it so far?
It has been 2 years. No, year and a half. Sorry, year and a
Okay.
half. We went on in June of 2021, or July, end of June, early July.
And there are TVs that are out there. There are some Sonys that are in existence. There are some other additional tuners like the silicon dust tuners that are coming out. Are you starting to see viewers that are picking up your signal, and what do they think about it so far?
Absolutely, yeah. I have not had a lot of conversations with viewers as far as the quality, uh, just the reception, and they do like the picture. So that's kind of as far as they've gotten, is for describing things. But yes, there are a number of viewers. As I mentioned, shortly after we turned the signal on, I received at least 3 or 4 emails and phone calls from folks going, "Hey, I just got this new TV. I see your picture, looking good," and a few would call with questions. We had an issue, a networking issue, unfortunately, the other day that kind of interrupted our signal, and had an email or a phone call, and the message was forwarded to me that, "Hey, what happened? My brand new Sony set was working great, and all of a sudden you're gone." So there's people watching, and it's good to know that they're watching. Uh,
There's always a couple of viewers or listeners that are faster than your own alarm systems.
yes, yes,
It's always
and they
great to
were
have
on top of it.
out there.
So
Yeah, that's cool. And have you guys done actually any marketing about your new signal? I mean, have you actually told people, or these are people that have just found it organically?
most of it's organic. We've done a little bit. We kind of were a little conservative on promoting it. Other than to say, "Hey, we're doing something. You need to rescan because of some of the 1.0 reassignments." But that was the initial push when we did the cutover. And following up, we added some promos and said, "Hey, this signal is out there. Here's what it can do, and this is what the future looks like for television and will look like." And there was some response.
Cool.
Uh,
Well, I want to hop over to Fred again because I'm sure you guys can share some war stories on getting these signals on the air and compare notes. But Fred, I know you guys at PBS North Carolina have been taking advantage of a lot of the technology that goes with it. But I'm curious. I'm going to ask you a lot of the same questions about Jeff. How did you ended up getting the signals on the air that you did? You ended up doing a channel sharing arrangement with a commercial broadcaster, or how did you end up getting your signals on the air?
So for the Raleigh Durham area market, we partnered with WRAL on their WNGT Class A licensed station. We did that in about March of 2021. And then we followed that in June of 2021 with WUNK, our Greenville full power site, that one that had all the overlaps that I showed earlier. And so that one's by itself. We're not sharing with anybody on that one. And that's a full power megawatt UHF broadcast channel there. So, and as far as getting there, we first off we started with we built a lab in 2019 where we bought the encoding equipment, all the processing gear that goes down the signaling servers, the gateways, and all that thing into a Gates Air exciter, so that we could mimic a broadcast in our lab, because we were wanting to do a lot of things within the data casting space for public safety, remote learning, some other things. And so we built that first, and then worked with WREL on joining their next gen ATSC3 broadcast, and then we, basically duplicated our lab for a WUNK transmission facility with the encoding, all the processing gear again. There's a lot of steps you have to go through. There's a lot of legal steps you have to go through, a lot of viewer notification. We had to do a little bit of we had to create a sharing agreement with ourselves to get the WUNK transmission facility operational, based on we were sharing with one of our transmission facilities that wasn't all that far away. So there's a lot of legal stuff that you have to go through for all that. The getting the signal out there from our network operations center here in Raleigh-Durham wasn't too difficult. We were able to find some space on our microwave radio system to get it out there. We have all the encoding gear and all that here. We just have the transmission facility there, and then it's just a licensing fee to flip the switch on to change the exciters from ATSC 1.0 technology to 3.0. And after that, we did do a full proof on the transmitter just to make sure that we were, falling within the appropriate parameters for ATSC 3 broadcast.
I love this ability that you had to set this up in a lab before you actually put it on the air. So you're able to find some of the bugs and basically see how this system works all the way through before you even put it on the air at full power.
Yes, and that Kevin, you know that we've been working in this public safety space for some time, going back to 2016, 2017, where we thought about, we were approached by people from the public safety community who knew enough about the technology to say, is there something we could do with this? And we were interested in exploiting ATSC3. And so working with them, this idea that we could possibly use the ATSC3 broadcast to reach first responders in a far more efficient manner than what they do now, over a much wider area than they have now. And that's gotten a lot of attention for us. We've been recognized that by NAB, IEEE, and some others for the work that we've done in that space. And we're testing it right now, where we've got this operational in, I won't say operational, where we've got it in beta testing in Eastern North Carolina. The Department of Homeland Security funded a small business innovation research grant for a company. We couldn't apply for it. We're not a small business. We're a nonprofit, and they awarded it to a local company here to develop this. I take this concept and try to bring it to market. And right now, I'm going to hold this up here. This is one of the digital pagers that our partner they built about 50 of these so far, and they receive the pages over ATSC3 that are sent from a 911 dispatch center. So that's the information comes from the 911 dispatch center, comes to us. We send it to our broadcast. It broadcasts out. Then the first responder picks it up on these devices, and it provides a lot more information, much faster, as I said, over a much larger area. So there's a lot of interest in that, and so we're continuing on that work with that. We're also using the technology that I mentioned earlier for remote learning. Certainly was a big concern during the height of the pandemic, but we see there's a lot of applications for this in perhaps even in non-English speaking communities, and certainly in North Carolina and across the country, providing learning resources or job skill resources and whatnot for folks in areas that maybe they can't afford the type of connectivity needed to get this sort of information. And that so our mission is a little different than the commercial broadcasters and what Jeff his folks are all about. Um, we're going to be focusing on just pretty much what kind of applications can we bring to the general public for them to benefit them in safety, education, whatnot.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that's, as you mentioned, one of the big advantages to this and something that PBS North Carolina has really dove into. And you're taking the whole mobile viewing thing that is touted as part of next gen TV and kind of taking that to a new level, because that mobile receiver is that pager that you're holding in your hand. And that's one of the key things that you can take advantage of is like, hey, if people can watch this on their phones using our UHF signal, then we can throw this in there. And for those that don't know, by the way, PBS has a system that they provide a lot of backup response and a lot of backup alerting for first responders throughout the nationwide system. This is baked into a lot of the PBS television stations. You guys take that a step further within your own state, uh, being a state system and being part of the state government to provide the dispatch for a lot of fire departments. That was a big project you guys took on.
Right. And then that's the project we're still continuing to work on. And um, we've tested it here in the Raleigh-Durham area right now. We're testing it in the eastern part of the state. And we actually went up into the mountains of North Carolina in the last 2 months and did two different tests up in the mountains where we converted one of our translators to ATSC3. We got an experimental license from the FCC to do that, and just to see how well it would perform up in the mountains. And did and it did well, but you in the mountains you have a lot of challenges with terrain. So what you really need to do is where we have multiple translators. Eventually, those will all be on ATSC3. They will fill these gaps that are a challenge out there. And the folks up we're getting a lot of interest from the folks in the mountains that this is a key piece where they actually are on. They're often on multiple radio systems just to communicate for one event, and we think we can probably bring that into one environment.
And what do you see some of the other PBS stations doing? Obviously, the public safety aspect has always been one part of the mission of this, but also you touched on distance learning. What are some of the things you're looking at, and what have you heard from around the system that other stations are doing?
Well, there are a number of stations that worked with distance learning in ATSC 1.0 through the pandemic. And I hand it to South Carolina and other states that spun this up very quickly during the pandemic. Uh, there was limited bandwidth with ATSC1, but what they ended up doing was, perhaps drop into channel service or something to make more room. And it was pretty much for like pushing out lesson plans and that kind of thing. With ATSC3, there's more capacity, so we think we can do more with that. And then also, it's just ATSC3 is such more robust in its delivery. ATSC1, I mean, you could try putting a window antenna up in your house. You may or may not have success with it. You'll have more success with ATSC3. Um, but that, but we again, the idea here though is in the area out in eastern North Carolina where we're broadcasting this now, there's a significant number of communities that are the broadband connectivity is just not there yet. And if when they get it, it tends to be very, very expensive. And so we're looking at this being a means of, reaching students. And I also said, other uh, language communities that may benefit from different types of learning resources.
This is all really fascinating to learn because we're really getting into the business of data casting as opposed to just being television broadcasters, even more so these days than has ever been possible. So I'm curious, and I'll ask this of you, and then I'll kind of ask you guys some general war stories so far. But for Fred, how has the reception been in North Carolina and the markets that you've launched it so far?
Well, I think Jeff kind of spoke on a little bit. We hear a little bit, we don't hear a lot. There's just not enough TVs out there yet. Um, and I have we're testing in our lab just about everybody's set top box right now, and they're getting close, but it's not not quite there yet where we can get those things out in mass and at a price point that's going to be acceptable for the viewer. Um, you know, I just think there's going to be a place for the set top box. I don't think everybody's going to want to run out and buy a brand new TV just yet. I did see some interesting research a while back that suggested that in the next 2 years could be an inflection point where the number of TV sets sold in the United States, that every year they um, more and more of them are going to have the ATSC3 capability in them, that we're going to get to a point in 2 or 3 years from now where there will be a significant number of sets on the market, that it will make it more uh, the broadcasters will may be more interested to start transitioning more transmitters to ATSC3.
That's really good to know, and especially as more and more stations are eyeing it, because admittedly, as I was telling you guys before we got on the air, in our market in particular, it's something that we all see on the horizon, but we're not necessarily in any hurry to launch it because of just the status of our market. And since there's no mandate to adopt it, it is voluntarily done, and it is done on a market driven basis. So I think a lot of the people and the broadcasters here are looking at folks like you and Jeff that are kind of being the beta testers and seeing what's out there and working out the bugs and figuring out uh, what they can do with it before they really dive into it. So I think you're right. And probably around that same time, would you guys think we would see more stations coming on board? I mean, how many more, Fred, do you see coming on board in the next year or two?
Well, I think the focus has been, what I see from um, you go to the ATSC.org website. There's I think a spotlight on ATSC, and it'll show the map of all the markets in the country that have transitioned, and then a list of markets that have transitioned, and a list of markets that are planning to transition. So I think that probably the biggest focus is still getting the individual markets to transition, like where you're at, Kevin, and other markets, and there are plenty of plans out there for those. I think the biggest change will be when we started putting the second and third, convert the second and third transmission facilities to ATSC3. That'll be that'll be the bellwether moment, I think, for ATSC3.
And do you foresee I know you're not a lawyer, but do you foresee on the horizon soon the dropping the requirement to simulcast ATSC1?
I would not predict that.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
and I would say this for the commercial broadcast. I mean, you got to remember this. ATSC1 is most everybody's bread and butter. So no one wants to jeopardize. I talked about that earlier. The disenfranchising the current ATSC 1.0 viewer. We can't do that. So this has got to be careful, methodic, and the products have to be in place so that we can do this.
So for both you and Jeff, I guess the question is, how is it going overall? What are you, I guess now that you're a couple of years into both of you running your signals, how would you rate the overall experience so far? I mean, I know it's been a learning curve to get into what is a lot of new technology, literally, because you're adopting first generation gear. So how's that going for you?
Pretty
Go ahead,
good.
Jeff.
I even though we haven't done a whole lot with the technology and the feature sets, um, it has been fairly low maintenance. Now, granted, I'm not operating the transmitter. I haven't talked to my friends up at the Fox station there to make sure everything's been going good on the RF side. But as far as what we're doing, the reliability of the network connections, everything has gone very well. and now it's, as you said, it's time to learn and dig in more. And I know, from the engineering side, and I would guess from the business side as well, there's a lot of folks in the commercial world that are looking at areas like what Fred's doing, and going, okay, they're taking advantage of this, and this is how this works. For example, I've got a sales manager here who's a great go-getter and makes us a lot of money, and he's read a pretty fair amount on 3.0. And I get monthly questions. When are we doing this? I'm ready to do spot advertising. I'm ready to do this, and I can make us some money. And I would love to dive into that, but there's also the, okay, can we really make money on it? And how exactly do we do it? I'm still learning some of that, and I think a lot of broadcasters are. And things like what Fred's doing, and a couple other groups with mobile devices. We're just kind of watching how that evolves and going, okay, now we know what's out there. Now we know how they did it. Let's see if we can maybe smooth these edges off and then start to, build the business model on that. So that's, we know the base works. So like I said, connectivity, the signal's there. It's really good. The picture looks good. It even, what, hate to say it, even up converting it, but it looks good, for being an up converted picture.
Fred, you had something to
I have
chime
a
in
lot of
too?
hope.
Yeah. So I would say that, I also, I gotta, I'm an old guy. I've been in this business a long time, and I was just, kind of happy, so just really kind of surprised um, when I started hearing about ATSC3, and I came here to North Carolina, and we were in a position that we could invest some effort into this thing. It's really invigorated me in this business because I think for the first time, we've got a world class technology that is technology that the things that we think we're going to do with it, um, in 2 or 3 years are not, there's going to be so many other things that are going to come with it. We don't know what we're going to innovate yet, um, but we have a platform that allows for tremendous innovation, um, and being all IP based and very, internet like. It really opens the door for application development where we can bring in a whole world of application developers. This is a very familiar space for them to create the next things that, again, who knows what it's all going to be. And so I'm really excited about it. I think, again, I try not to get, um, um, I try not to let some of the some of the technical challenges that come up with this every now and then get in the way with those will get resolved and what this thing will become, um, and in so many ways. And for live entertainment, wonderful. For television that we've always been used to, the broadcast application then brings in a lot of things that we could be watching a great show that we like, maybe want to go back and watch other episodes of the show that are available online. We could just use that same application to draw those in, uh, who knows what. So it's just I think it's really an exciting time for broadcasting at a time where we really need it. Um, so I'm bullish on this. I'm hopeful for it.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that. And I know, Fred, you brought a lot of slides and materials to present to the group. So I want to make sure if there was something you wanted to show off, if there was something you wanted to get in before we run out of time here, I wanted to give you a few minutes to show it off.
I'm good on this. There's I could share some slides with you all on the public safety piece of this. Okay, let's just spin up the one. If you could spin up the first slide, number one. And I'll warn you all, this has a little bit of loud audio in it. So not that one. Let's try.
Should be
That
01
was
Suncast.
01. I'm sorry.
All the sausage being made in the production. Everybody gets a view behind the scenes.
The next evolution of television broadcast.
Not that one. That's
go.
one.
This is the technology you guys basically added into your signal.
.34, 4024, 4125, 4114, 3735, 3720, 4027, 4002, 4102. Respond to a first alarm, Florissant. Kitchen, 450 Naomi Avenue, Crushing of Bob and Ray. Respond on Tech 10. 4034, 4024, 4125, 4114, 3735, 3720, 4027, 4002, 4102. Respond to a first alarm in Florissant. Kitchen at 450 Naomi Avenue, Crushing of Bob and Ray. All units respond on TAC 10, TAC 10, time is 12:20.
So this is really this started the whole thing for us here at PBS North Carolina, and focusing on ATSC 3 and what it could do. What you watched and listened to was an actual dispatch in St. Louis, Missouri, for a kitchen fire. What happened? What you wouldn't hear? You would call in and say, "I got a kitchen fire at my house in 123 Naomi Avenue, whatever," and you would hang up. All of that would happen afterwards, and if you watched the fire while all that was going on, the fire continued to grow and grow and grow. A fire will double in size every minute. So the work that we're working on is to, if that information, when you call into the 911 dispatch center, someone is keying that information into a computer called a computer-aided dispatch system. As soon as they hit send, that gets sent over then to a dispatcher who then goes in what you heard. And what we said was, what if we just, as soon as that information was entered into the CAD system, they hit send, they send that to our ATSC3 broadcast, it gets broadcast out, it gets received on this thing in a milliseconds. Thrown away that 67 seconds. Oh, by the way, at that 911 dispatch center, Chris is called in with his kitchen fire. Jeff is called for a car accident. Poor Kevin over there, he's having a cardiac arrest. All of those have to wait because we got to get the kitchen fire done, and then we're going to do the car accident, and then we're going to do and poor Kevin at the end there. It could be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes before Kevin's thing, his dispatch gets sent out. It could be done much, much quicker over this method. And again, the other areas that these systems that are out there are typically the radio distribution systems, and for the paging system, they use a pager similar to this. It's just a voice pager that they would have heard all that stuff on, that 67 seconds worth of stuff. That pager works off a VHF radio. It's about 100 watts, if that, at about 150 feet in the air. We're at a megawatt at 1,100 feet in the air, or 1,200 feet in the air, or whatever. We win that battle on the RF side big time. And so we could propagate out way, way farther. And so in North Carolina, these are typically done county by county. Our one transmitter will hit 20 counties or 30 counties. That we could be then that central point for all that communication, which would actually greatly assist in mutual aid between jurisdictions, because maybe County A at the edge of the county line where this incident is, they don't have somebody that can get there close enough, but maybe the other county has somebody. They could easily get somebody there. And so a lot of the secret soup in this is really at the 911 dispatch center, and taking that CAD data and also bringing in different CAD systems into what we call a normalization server that then sends that to the ATSC3 broadcast. So that's what that's kind of the vision of all this. We started talking about it 6 years ago, and I was about a year and a half ago, I saw the first prototype receiver. It was a breadboard. It was a big mess of things all over the table, but it worked. And I got a tear in my eye. Like, I can't believe it that this, we've been working on this for this long, and it's it's actually working. So now it's just a matter of refining it, and and we are working with jurisdictions to show them the technology, to get their buy-in, so that maybe they'll want to participate in this. So
And on the I was
that's
going to
why
say
I'm
on the
doing it.
commercial radio side, they can push out notifications that there's a sale on hot wings over happy hour at your local spot. You got to take advantage of that new technology somehow.
It's got to pay for
Well,
itself somehow.
exactly. Well, guys, we're just about out of time, but I wanted to kind of get your final thoughts. What do you guys have shared a lot of great information. I mean, overall, are you guys pretty optimistic about what you're doing? And obviously, you both sound pretty eager about it, especially you, Fred. But I mean, you overall optimistic about what we're doing?
Yeah, just a couple things. One is, yes, obviously I'm very optimistic about this. Two, shameless plug for SBE. I took the ATSC 3 specialist exam. It was not easy, but I successfully passed. So I have that on my title now. So I encourage you all that are interested in ATSC 3 to take the time, study up for it. It's a worthwhile effort to do it. And then, and be supportive of SBE. I'm the chapter chair here in Raleigh, Durham, and we appreciate the support of all the members.
This brought to you by the SBE.
I was going to say, certification appreciates your endorsement.
And Jeff,
You covered
about
everything. Yeah, I'm hopeful and excited about it. It's like Fred said, this is kind of rejuvenating and bringing a lot of potential to what we do. And I used to joke, and clearly it was kind of a joke years ago that with 1.0, I used to say engineers invented television. Now we're kind of getting it back because so many of the business folks didn't quite understand what we were doing with digital television and why and all of that. And it sort of worked out, but it not really. And now again, we've got an even better technology here, um, and hey, this is really exciting. There's some really neat stuff here, and it's no longer, at least from my perspective, okay. Well, the business guys are over there, and the technology guys are over here. Now we can work together, and we can make a living at this, and we can benefit our viewers as well. So there's a lot of neat things that we can do with this, and I it's pretty exciting.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Well, thank you both for joining us. And you guys have both shared a lot of great insight to it. I know I, in particular, was interested in talking about this because I still have a lot to learn about this subject. So you guys have both been very helpful and helped me understand what we're doing here and how the experience is going. So thank you both.
Quite welcome.
Well, Chris, I'll turn it over to you to wrap things up for us today.
All right. Well, thanks, Kevin. And this has been the SBE WEBxtra, the SBE chapter of the web. We present it monthly. We hope you'll join us each time. We'll post the replay on our YouTube channel. If you hold SBE certification, viewing the SBE WEBxtra qualifies you for 1/2 point in Category G, that's attendance. It's just like attending a local chapter meeting. If you have an idea for a topic or a guest for the SBE WEBxtra, send it to us at webextra@sbe.org. And that does it for this installment of the SBE WEBxtra from the Society of Broadcast Engineers, the Association for Broadcast and Multimedia Technology Professionals. Thanks again to our guests, Jeff Juniet and Fred Engel. And on behalf of Kevin Trueblood, we'll see you next month.